Today I'm going to be telling you all about my field experience. My name is Angela Colbinson. Pictured to the left is myself in professional attire outside of my cooperating teacher's room. My placement took place at McCaskey East High School, pictured on the right, in a direct instruction math course. During my placement, I was with Michelle Strathmeyer. She teaches a direct instruction math class for grades 10 and 11. Mrs. Strathmeyer was only available 2 periods while I was there, so I was allowed to observe 3 other classes as well: an ESL class with Miss K, a direct instruction social studies class with Mr. B, and a practical language arts and English class with Mrs. Young. These classes provide the students with a least restrictive environment, or LRE. The students are learning at the appropriate level in the appropriate environment for them. Each class I observed had a different class size, but all averaged about 12. In the direct instruction math and social studies classes, 100% of the students had a learning disability, whereas in the ESL class, all of the students were working to develop their English speaking skills. Like the textbook discusses in Chapter 2, the students were all ethnically diverse. The grade levels I got to observe were 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. What makes special education special? These next slides show examples of specifically designed instruction materials, accommodations, and/or modifications. In this picture is a visual aid that students created to help them gain a better understanding of functions, the lesson they were learning. Not all classes created this helpful tool. Depending on the class, Mrs. Strathmeyer chooses whether or not a tool like this would be helpful for her students. These are binders that each of Mrs. Strathmeyer's students is provided with. They house the students' in-class notes, tests and quizzes, their workbooks, and also worksheets. They help students stay organized, and being organized helps them learn better. These binders can also be used when the students are completing quizzes and tests to help them. These binders are also a great tool for the teacher to monitor their class participation and progress. These are students' vocabulary words for the unit in which they are working on. Mrs. Young displays their words as a tool for the students to utilize when completing in-class assignments. These students in this class benefit from a tool such as this because it allows them to be more confident when writing because they know they're going to be using the words correctly. 10th and 11th grade students in Mrs. Strathmeyer's class are using Imagine Math. This is a program that students can access on a computer during given class time. It helps them to develop their math skills along the way. In the beginning of the year, the students take a baseline test that sets their starting point with the program. If a student scores low in their path focuses on basic math principles, whereas if a student scores medium to high, their path will focus more on skills needed for the Keystone exam. This is another example of vocabulary terms being displayed, but these terms will be useful throughout the entire school year. Mrs. Young said she likes to keep these words up all year long so the students become familiar with them and feel comfortable using them when it comes to taking the Keystone exam. This next slides still focus on the same question as earlier: what makes special education special? But now I'm going to talk about examples of behavioral, organizational, and/or motivational materials. Mr. B students conducted research about U.S. presidents and later during my placement presented them to the class. To encourage students to do well on their assignment, he implemented some expectations in the rubric. A big part of his grading of the students is behavior, not only professional behavior when presenting, but also good behavior while watching your peers present. Mrs. Strathmeyer has implemented a point system in her classroom. Each student starts out the week with a certain number of points, and each time he or she is not doing what they're supposed to, a point is removed. This could link to Chapter 2 and individual differences. Focus on each student's difficulty, but remind them to do it right so they learn. Examples of behaviors include not coming to class prepared, not wearing their ID, coming to class late, having to be reminded to remove headphones or stay off their phone multiple times. At the end of the week, all their points are added together and are conducted to create a grade for the week. Mrs. Strathmeyer has a poster hanging in her classroom that displays each student's name and stickers. Each student will earn a sticker for making progress in Imagine Math. This is a form of positive reinforcement. This system acts as motivation for some students because their progress is on display, but also is motivating because it doubles as a reward system. Prior to this placement, I had experience working with students with learning disabilities in an elementary school. These students were in a life skills classroom and then pushed into gen ed classrooms. My first impressions of this placement were that I was worried. It's not what I expected because in my eyes, special education was not a direct instruction class. Special education and inclusion beliefs. After this placement, I now understand that there is more to special education. The students are all special in their own ways, and stereotypes do not define special education. This experience really opened my eyes to not only what special education encompasses, but also a different school district and their views on special education. The views of these teachers and this district vary differently from my own school district and my own experiences. Some new questions that I have developed are, some of the ways the teachers tried to motivate the students, are they effective? What other ways are there that can be implemented into a high school classroom? What do you do if some of your students don't care or try to put in effort to succeed? We discussed this briefly in class the other day. Future classroom ideas. If I were to be teaching in a high school classroom, I really like the computer program the students could use because it allows them to set their own pace and develop greatly when it comes to succeeding on the Keystone exam. This is my time log for my placements on February 14th, February 21st, and February 28th.